Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Stitcher. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Reddit, Instagram, and MeWe. And of course, be sure to visit mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, on to the show.
It's more than a film. It's a way of life.
Everybody fits in. I think everybody's trying to fit in somehow.
If it wasn't for Mad Max and then Wasteland, we all wouldn't be here right now.
You will know the vengeance of the Lord among us.
This type of passion, you cannot fake passion like that.
I had no idea that there was other people as weird as I am.
It's up to each and every one of us to have that determination to push ourselves through.
It fills people's lives, makes them happy, and that's Mad Max.
This was all I dreamed about. This is all I wanted to be, and here I am living that life.
I never thought one day that I would go back to the wasteland. Maybe the last thing I do.
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 404. Set to have its world premiere on the 5th of February is Beyond the Wasteland, a documentary that explores and celebrates the mad fans of Mad Max, the Australian classic that made Mel Gibson a star, George Miller a sought-after director, and has amassed a cult following all over the world. Featuring interviews with cast from the 1979 Mad Max film, as well as with fans from the US, Japan, France, and beyond that. Beyond the Wasteland also delves into the impact Mad Max has had on pop culture. And joining me now is the director and producer of Beyond the Wasteland, Eddie Beyrouthy. Eddie, I thank you so very much for joining me today.
Matt, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your support. And it's good to be here.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I'm wearing my Mad Max shirt. I'm ready to talk about Beyond the Wasteland, all things Mad Max. But before we do, I think it may be a good time now to just talk about the upcoming world premiere, which is on Saturday, 5th of February at the Coburg Village Drive-In. And also after that, you're going to do a bit of a tour, aren't you? Just going to different cities around the country to a bit of Q&A and presenting the film. Is that correct?
That's correct, Matt. Yeah. So we we're really, really excited to premiere the documentary at the Coburg Drive-Ins, and the Coburg Drive-Ins is a place that we all know and love, and I'm sure we've had many experiences over the last 3-4 decades, and it's featured in the documentary as well. So we've always had this idea of wanting to premiere the documentary and create as much nostalgia as we could, as far as being at the drive-ins, a nice summer's night, watching a documentary about the fans of a franchise that really put Australia on the map. And at the same time, through the support of, through distribution with Umbrella Entertainment and Monster Pictures, who are handling all the marketing and the tour for us, we've got a series of special event screenings that we're touring around the country. And I'm sure, Matt, you'll be able to, plug that as far as the dates. But pretty much it's all on our Facebook, Beyond the Wasteland documentary, and also on Umbrella Entertainment and Monster Pictures social media and website, we're really excited to spread the word. It's been a long time coming. We shot this and produced it and completed it throughout 2019 and the better half of 2020, and spent some time really getting it to a level that we were happy with. But at the same time, it's ready to be released and ready to embrace the film industry and the Mad Max culture. So yeah, we're super excited.
So for everyone out there listening, I will have kind of links in my show notes to like those to the Facebook page and to the Umbrella website as well. Have all the tour dates and everything there, because I do want people to really check out this documentary, because I'm a big Mad Max fan. I really am. I remember the first time I saw, I think I might have been 8 or 9, I saw Mad Max Part 2 in the good old days of VHS. And I think I didn't see it from the start, but I remember especially the first time I saw the character of Wes, played by Vernon Wells, so iconically. And just that character, really just such a scary looking character, and the whole movie was just so different than anything else I've seen before. And it's like one of those kind of impressions that really stuck with me in kind of like my cinema movie watching journey. What about yourself, Eddie? What's the first kind of memories you have of Mad Max that you can recall?
It's look. I was born in the mid '80s, so it took me a couple of years to to adjust to the world that we were born into. I remember seeing it in it was probably early into mid '90s. So it's, sort of 10 years after, a good 10 years after, just a bit over that. And I remember seeing this film. I've always been a fan of Mel Gibson and Mel Gibson's work, and it was on VHS as well. I remember that, and it was just these guys in these police officers and guys in black leather, really cool costumes, and they were just flying through the highways and the desert and and red earth, and they were just out there trying to catch these bad guys, and then after, I was still young, I was still trying to adjust to it all, and then you had Terminator 2, and you had a few other films, and all the Jean-Claude Van Damme films, and it was an interesting and experience, and I never knew it was an Australian film. It was always thought it was like Australia doesn't do these sort of films; they all come from the US. But then when I found out, when I did a bit of research, found out, it just sort of stuck to me, and I was proud to see that we. Like the land down under, and the guy, the land that's just tucked away in the corner of the globe, was capable of producing films, and especially because I've always been a fan of post-apocalyptic and dystopian and end of the world and futuristic type of films and stories. It was it was definitely an experience. Since then it's always sort of been it's always a seed that's really sort of, I guess it was good to appreciate and acknowledge that something as small as Mad Max has made, a major impact on the international stage, and that's what we're proud of as Australians and as filmmakers as well.
Interesting thing about this documentary is that its beginnings, I think it was like 2018 where you started working on it. At first, the documentary is going to be more kind of like of a personal journey with Bertrand Cadar, who was the late Bertrand Cadar, who played the role of Clunk in the 1979 Mad Max movie. So for those who don't know, it was kind of like more of the, to put it in other words, kind of like the simpleton member of the gang. Some people kind of describe him as like a 4-year-old in like an adult's body. He's got the crowbar and all that kind of stuff. And so originally you were going to follow his journey during what would have been his kind of like last years. And then that journey will take him from Queensland to Victoria, I imagine, to that 2019 40th anniversary of the Mad Max kind of anniversary party. How did that kind of expand to the documentary that people will be watching in a few weeks from today?
Yeah, of course, mate. So I've known Bertrand for quite a while, for almost 15 years, and he called me in August of 2019, and I'd call him Mr. B and he'll call me Mr. E. And, we had this sort of thing. So he's like, Mr. E, I hope you're sitting down, and, I've got a project for you. It's a documentary, and it's a journey that I want to, go on from, and I want to drive from Queensland to Melbourne and then, experience all the 40th anniversary Mad Max celebrations that were going on in 2019. And then I sort of sat down and I had a chat to Phil Lambert, who's my producing partner and business partner. And we thought, okay, look, it's definitely an interesting story. And, as far as a journey, and I had known Bertrand had always been a fan of Mad Max outside of playing a very minor role, in a toe cutter gang, and he's known as a crowbar man, but he also designed the fairings for the motorbikes, and that was something special that really had a place in his heart. And we sort of researched and started to reaching out to the Mad Max community, and then after a couple of weeks, we realized, hang on a sec, this is bigger than what we thought it was. It's not just a couple of fans gathering. It's there's a whole world. There's a tribe of Mad Max fans from around the world. So it kind of opened up all these opportunities. We always had a scripted project, and we had a structure. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to follow Bertrand's journey, and I wanted Bertrand to lead the way. And as Bertrand led the way, and we sort of flew to Queensland, had a couple of interviews there, and then drove, over a series, over the course of 9 or 10 days to Melbourne and did some pit stops. We met so many amazing people and Australians and just people, from around the world. And it just grew from there. Once by the time we got to the Maryborough Mad Max 40th anniversary celebrations, we met people from overseas, Jim Tank and Yoshi and Melvin, and Robbie from Italy wasn't. He had never been to Australia, but he was part of the Mad Max international community. And then we learned about Wasteland Weekend, and it just grew and grew and grew. I thought, hang on a sec, this is something that the rest of the world needs to know about, because this is really special. It's an international. Mad Max was always, the seed was always planted in Australia, but there's people have their own pieces of the wasteland around the world. And it just grew from there. So, and Bertrand never knew about the Silverton Mad Max 2 celebration. So that was, at the time it was just 38 years. But they're always back to back every couple of years. That would happen sometimes every year, but obviously with COVID they've just been delayed. And so once we finished the Maryborough and the Clunes, procession and the celebrations, I said to Bertrand, look, we're going to go on a road trip to Silverton. You're not done with me yet. You're not going home. And he was a bit, surprised. And so, but, I wanted him to, he was obviously diagnosed with stage 4 leukemia. So he knew he was on a bit of a timer. But his heart and his spirit and his dedication just, was unbelievable. He was this, powerful figure that just wanted to get out there and explore and really live, with everything that he had achieved in his life. Mad Max always had a very, very special place in his heart, and he wanted to, make an impression and go out there and speak to people. And it didn't matter that he played a small role. He didn't really care about that. He was just proud to be, part of a franchise that really celebrated life outside of the borders of the wasteland. And it just grew from there. And then, we had we always wanted to endeavor to travel overseas, but obviously it's a very, very big world, and we wanted to meet the right people that represented Mad Max as a super fan. That was always the thing. And the rest is history. We just traveled, and Bertrand didn't travel with us. His health didn't allow him to hit the road for 6 weeks, but otherwise, he led the way, and this is his legacy. This is something that and each and every person knew Bertrand and had some sort of connection with Bertrand. And it's a very inspiring documentary, and I really hope people enjoy it. So that's gonna, it's definitely not
It's really interesting in that the franchise of Mad Max. I mean, I knew Mad Max had fans, but I didn't know that it had that kind of dedication that, say, Star Wars would have or Star Trek would have, where you have people kind of dress up in the characters, they create the cars, because when I watch Mad Max, it's just such a gritty kind of eccentric, just kind of this world of leather and mohawks and mutants and these petrol guzzling cars of death. I was really surprised it was such a dedicated fan base to this kind of story, because you think that even though the story does have to deal with heroes and villains and good and evil and all the different types of themes as well, it just seems so kind of like much more violent and kind of like more kind of like action figure kind of things. I don't ever remember buying like a Mad Max action figure when I was a kid. Like they didn't have that marketing appeal behind it that a lot of these pop culture movements have. Were you kind of surprised as well? They were such a dedicated fan base, or just had such a global impact?
Definitely, Matt. I was very, very, very surprised, and so was Phil and the entire crew. We knew that, and I think what we found out very quickly was that as good as Mad Max is as a film and as a story, and it doesn't necessarily represent the Australian culture, because when it does in many other ways. It does in ways of. It just brought all these niche groups together, brought these, car enthusiasts and, rev heads and guys that love their Holdens and Fords. And we all know the never-ending battle of Holden versus Ford. And it brought people from, the motorcycle scene. It brought people from the punk rock scene, from the rock and roll scene, from all these different scenes, and it brought them all together. As you said, there was, the Mohawks from Mad Max too, and there's a mention of that, and there's a mention of all these sort of subcultures coming in together, and then it brought in cultures and backgrounds and enthusiasts from the international stage, from Japan, the Kawasaki bikes. That was huge for the, and it was at the perfect time, but when that was going on. There was always the other side of things where, we briefly highlight the 73, 74 oil crisis, and we're experiencing similar things today, where there's a possibility of shortage on oil and fuel and resources and all this sort of stuff. But I think also the most amazing part was that it allowed people and the fans to almost relive that sort of film and be a part of it in a more intimate way, in a more, in a form of escapism. We've all got everyday jobs, but, we want to, we all love to be film characters and dress up and play roles and, role play and cosplay and it really just, I think it made us all proud, not just as Australians, but as people of the world. It made us proud to sort of be a part of a franchise. And I'm sure it's possible with many other films, but Mad Max and the Outback and the cars and the costumes, it definitely gives our super fans the opportunity to live and breathe the Mad Max world, the wasteland, and that's what we wanted to try and capture, and I think we've done that, to the best of our abilities. So, yeah.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by 80s Tees. 80s Tees is an online retailer of licensed t-shirts and pop culture gear from your favorite movies, TV shows, cartoons, video games, comic books, and musicians. Celebrate your inner 80s nerd and click on the link in the show notes below to get the raddest retro t-shirts delivered to your door. The Matt's Movie Reviews channel is brought to you by Loot Crate. Founded in 2012, Loot Crate is the worldwide leader in fan subscription boxes. Loot Crate partners with industry leaders in entertainment, gaming, sports, and pop culture to deliver monthly themed crates, produce interactive experiences and digital content, and film original video productions. No matter what you geek out about, Loot Crate has a subscription box for you. To get your very own exclusive collectibles, apparel, and gear delivered to your door, be sure to click on the link in the show notes below. It's one thing where you have fans who are dressing up like their favorite characters from a particular movie. It's quite another thing when you have someone dressed like Lord Humongous with the mask and all that skin, and it's a sight to behold, definitely. And the man who did that, especially in documentary, was Jim Tank Dorsey, who's from New Jersey, big-time Mad Max fan. He used to dress like Max, but then he moved over to Lord Humongous. He even DJs as Lord Humongous, which is funny enough. He says it's his biggest source of finance, which is funny. When you come across someone like Jim, and you see him in full gear, so to speak, even though there's not a lot of gear really to see. What's your reaction to that? Because some people might think, geez, I'm not going to get anywhere near that bloke. But by all accounts in the documentary, so he's a wonderful bloke.
Yeah, look, Jim Tank Dorsey, we spent quite a bit of time with Jim in Australia and in the US. He's the most incredible, big-hearted, loving person, most dedicated, inspirational. I could go on and on about what Jim's like. And what I found was that somebody like Jim representing a franchise and a culture and a following, he just brings out his passion. When Jim puts on that mask and puts on the costume, and I say that proudly for every single Mad Max fan and cosplayer we met, they just become another person. They become this. They embrace what they're doing. They're so passionate about it, and that's what's important. Is that the passion and the dedication and the time and effort and energy. All these things play a very important role. It's not just the mask and the leathers and or Mad Max or Steve Schultz playing Wes. It's they've spent they're almost a portion of their life, almost a part of their life, dedicated to something that we still can't explain, and that's fine. We don't have to always be able to dissect every passion and every way of seeing and understanding things. These guys. It's when you see Jim Tank and on show, and he's just being Jim Tank. He's Jim's the same person, whether he's and the same personality. And but I think the passion that's the inner desire and the creative juices that are flowing is what really brings out his true purpose. You know what I mean? Like he's such a and we saw that with Robbie in Italy. We saw that with Yoshi from Japan as well, and we see it with a lot of people. They're so passionate and they're so opening. And the best part of the whole experience was that it doesn't matter. And I've said this over and over, and I really want to make this an important element. Was that it doesn't matter where you're from, your culture, your background, your religion, your belief, your faith. These guys and girls are all one. Everyone comes on board as one big cause. And they're all there, for the one reason and the one passion. And sometimes we tend to forget that, and we tend to miss that because, whether you're working on a car and you restore it from every nut and bolt, or whether you're a costume cosplayer, you've all got, we all have different passions. And, Jim really embraces that and encourages people to get out there, get out there and do more and be more and just have fun, and enjoy yourself. And at the same time, live and breathe the Mad Max world, and that's what these guys are really proud of, and we love that.
Speaking of living and breathing the Mad Max world, the film goes to the 40th anniversary of Mad Max, which was in Victoria, but you also attend the Wasteland weekend, which is in California in the States. I mean, this movie Beyond the Wasteland has a lot of different kind of like moments in it where it's kind of like a sight to behold. Seeing Jim in like the full-on Lord Humongous gear is one of them. The Mad Max Museum, that's also, I think that's in Silverton. That's another one that's quite something. I think that's Adrian and Linda Bennett who run that, and that's quite a sight to behold as well. But I think the most memorable moment in the documentary, for me anyway, in regards to visual aspect, is watching that convoy of cars, these machines of death from the Mad Max movies that these fans have put all their resources and time into replicating and seeing them roar across the desert towards your camera. It's quite something else. What was that experience like, filming that scene and hanging out at the Wasteland weekend with just all of these kind of like Mad Max fans? I'm sure it would have been a hoot to be in there.
Yeah, definitely. So the whole the whole US, we'll call it a leg of the tour. So we were on a very restricted time schedule as far as 5 countries, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. So at the time, Jared Butler, who's a co-organizer for Wasteland Weekend, we had spent quite a bit of time, quite a number of months just trying to plan it all and put it all together. So what Jared did was he organized a Wasteland Weekend car show, so just to kind of give us a bit of a tease and almost an open invite, just to because Wasteland Weekend is in September. September of and it's an annual event. So we spent quite a bit of time, and we had this sort of exclusive Wasteland Weekend car show in April. But our schedule didn't really allow us to. We didn't have enough time to shoot, come back, and go back to the US. So what we did was we outsourced and quite a. As you saw, a lot of footage from Wasteland Weekend from the previous year and also from the 2019 Wasteland Weekend. So, I was always, I had always wanted to be there and I always wanted to experience it. But, obviously, timing and schedule and then, everything else in between. But we had a lot of filmmakers, and Jared was instrumental with helping us source footage just to get the word out to show people that, hey, this is the place. This is almost... this is what the US is proud and proudly represents for the post-apocalyptic universe, and it's very much Mad Max inspired. That's that was always the experience. And there's many Australian fans who visit Wasteland Weekend annually as well. Obviously within respect to COVID. But so and for me as a director, I whether I was there or not, I just wanted to spread the word and show people that, hey, this is a play. This is what the US is doing in the spirit of Mad Max, and this is how they how they're proud, and also even with Spud and Aries, who literally have they live off somewhere in the Mojave Desert, I'll say somewhere, which is not far from the Wasteland site, who, basically live and breathe the Mad Max world. Even Adrian Bennett and his Linda wife, the most beautiful, amazing couple you can ever meet. And they, Adrian has a very, very special, unique story where he moved from the UK to the outback, and he wanted to live sort of on the land, where the film was shot, and live in the wasteland. And he built a museum, and now he's expanding and it's growing. And I really highly encourage you to visit, the Mad Max 2 Museum in Silverton, which is, a good half an hour from Broken Hill. But it was always, it was always, it was very inspiring to experience all that, because we knew there was a lot going on. We knew people, different fans had different ways of interpreting, their strong beliefs and strong support for the franchise. As you saw, Matt, it's there's a lot of unique ways of being proud and representing a franchise and representing a world that we all should be a lot more aware of. It's very interesting.
It's interesting in the film how you kind of try to tap into what the mythology is of the Mad Max series. It really kind of speaks to people. And you reference an author named Joseph Campbell. I believe he was also kind of like a philosopher. He kind of like he deals with mythology and religion, etc. One of his most well-known books is this book called The Hero with 1,000 Faces. And it kind of talks about, the kind of like the hero mythology, etc. And George Lucas came out when Star Wars was big and said, yes, the works of Joseph Campbell was a big influence on his characters in that film. And George Miller also said the same thing. Did you know anything about Joseph Campbell prior to this? Because I got to plead arrogance to it as well, because I didn't know about him, but just reading up about him since watching a documentary, he's such an interesting man, and his work's very interesting as well.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I had, I do a lot of research just with all different elements of film and storytelling, and I had come across Joseph's. I knew of Joseph Campbell, but I hadn't really spent too much time researching. But I'm actually reading The Hero with 1,000 Faces at the moment, and it's a very extensive. It's a work where it's sort of it's almost like a comparative mythology of different ways of storytelling and development and characters and and reflecting on life and and it's basically almost discussing the theory of the theory in mythology anyway, all the influences of life and how we see things, how we adapt. So it's I'm spending quite a bit of time with reading Hero with 1,000 Faces because I'm just dissecting it and ripping pages out and making notes. And but yeah, definitely. So when Stephen Sander, who was the editor for Beyond the Wasteland, and myself spent a bit of time researching, we wanted to know a little bit more about George's I get influence for Mad Max, and also referencing George Lucas as well. It seems like there's it's what I'm starting to learn, especially this being a first feature project and working on some other feature length films, is that understanding mythology and understanding life and and storytelling and writing and all these other elements really does have an influence, and it's definitely something that I'm very, very inspired and sort of appreciative of. So I'm going to spend a lot more time. But it was definitely good to to sort of touch on what George Miller's partly what his inspiration was for Mad Max, and obviously there was also references to the oil crisis and at the time sort of post-apocalyptic dystopian sort of world, and it was definitely interesting. So it's I'm glad we had the time to reference that as well. And as you saw, Matt, there's some archival footage from Joseph Campbell which we sourced through the Joseph Campbell Foundation as well, which was good to sort of mention that as well.
I mean, he's such a fascinating man, and his writing is really, just for what I've come across so far, is really fascinating as well. And I definitely want to delve into some of his books. The Hero of a Thousand Faces sounds incredible, and I can't wait to read it. I just want to ask a final question. You and I are both big Mad Max fans. You know, you've made a feature a documentary about the film's impact and its fan base. I wanted to see if you could rank the 4 films in your preference from favorite to least. For myself, number 2 is the first is my favorite, The Road Warrior, and then it goes Fury Road, then the first Mad Max, and then Mad Max Part 3, Beyond Thunderdome. What about yourself, Eddie? What is your ranking of the Mad Max films?
Yeah, look, Matt, I definitely agree with your preference, your choice. I think if I was to almost, if it's all 4 films, including obviously Fury Road was a whole different level of, filmmaking. You know what I mean? But as far as I was definitely a fan of. You got me now, because I was going to say Mad Max 1, but now I'm sort of steering towards. I've spent a lot more time. You sort of, I guess the more you adapt, and the more time you spend with fans, the more times you watch the films, the more you realise that it sort of changes and moves around a little bit. You know what I mean? But look, I think I adore Mad Max 1 because it was the introduction to the Mad Max, to the Beyond, to the Mad Max universe, to Max Rokitansky, to all the characters, and to the this post-dystopian world, and also the fact that it really brought out the Australian outback, and it was this world that not many people overseas knew about, and then I think, look, I must say, I do have a place in my heart for Beyond Thunderdome, but it's definitely, it's always going to be Mad Max 1, Mad Max 2, Fury Road. Fury Road is a whole different level, So if there was the first 3, I would still, I'm still sort of Mad Max 1, 2, and then Thunderdome at the moment, almost in that order. Only because I just appreciate that Mad Max 1 was, everything that evolved around it was always the foundations for this universe, and then other than that, I did enjoy Thunderdome. It was definitely a different not many fans have the best reviews, but everyone has their own review and everyone has their own belief and opinion towards it. But Mad Max 2 did really kick ass. There was a lot you couldn't, there was something about it. And also with the introduction of Lord Humongous, that
of
changed
yes.
the antagonist and it just everything else. It just made it, it went from here to there. It really sort of, worked its way up the ladder. So, yeah.
I think that last 35 minutes of that movie of part 2 is probably the best action filmmaking we'll ever see on the screen. And even till now, it's such a fantastic film. The Mad Max films, I love all of them. Thunderdome, I had my problems with it. There was a lot of troubles with that production that people know of now, but that's a great film as well. And Beyond the Wasteland, also another great film that continues the Mad Max legacy, especially in regards to the fans' perspective. And for everyone out there listening, the premiere February 5th in Victoria at Coburg Village Drive-In. And also for everyone in my home state of New South Wales, it's actually going to be a showing at Broken Hill, which is really cool considering the lineage of Mad Max with that territory as well. And I will have in my show notes all the links to the Facebook page and to the Umbrella website as well, so people can check out where they can watch Beyond the Wasteland, because I can highly recommend people check this film out, especially if you're a Mad Max fan. Because it does great service, Eddie. I think you did great service to the fans of Mad Max and to the legacy of the film. And I just want to say congratulations to you and best of luck with the upcoming tour of the film. I'm sure people are going to love it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much. And just wanted to add as well, with New South Wales, we do. So there's the Broken Hill Silver City Cinema screening. But Saturday, the 26th of February, there's one event, Skyline Drive-In in Blacktown as well in Sydney. So my geography isn't as good as I want it to be for Sydney, but hopefully that's near close for many fans. But yeah, definitely. So that's another one to add. And then also we're just waiting for Umbrella Entertainment to announce the next stage. Whether it's additional theaters or whether it's Blu-ray, DVD, or video on demand. But definitely, the word will spread. But at the same time, we want to make the most of these special screenings and really just embrace this world. So yeah, thank you so much, Matt. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content. Also, if you would like to request a review and support my work, please join my Patreon via the link in the description below.